Hey everyone, Dan here with another movie review, and once again we're going back to 1997. So we're doing a classic review, and this time we're going for another. This is actually Guillermo del Toro's feature-length debut in the US. And while he wasn't too happy with the theatrical release, I will be talking about his director's release. I'm talking about the 1997 horror flick, Mimic. Okay, Mimic starts out 3 years before the start of the movie, so I'm going to assume it starts in 94, where there's a disease called the Strickland disease, and it seems to be infecting thousands of kids. The movie takes place in New York, and it also appears that it's being carried around by roaches. So a team of scientists come around and say, okay, we found a way to genetically mutate our own bugs, put them into the system, and have the bugs die. Fast forward 3 years later, the team of scientists who initiated it, our main character Susan, played by Mira Sullivan, and Peter, played by Jeremy Northam, basically go about to find out that the mutants, roaches that they had genetically engineered, have mutated and become something a lot more than what they have. This is a movie that's 21 years old now, and the effects are not that bad. The effects have dated really well in all actuality. This is a suspense, horror / monster flick. So if this movie's going to survive in this day and time, it's going to be because of the monsters. And when the monsters are shown, the effects still show really well. But at the same time, this was done in the late 90s when these effects are a little bit more harder to do. So at times it does cheat by doing rapid editing, so you're not completely sure what's going on. But it doesn't do it enough to take you out. There's a couple of times where I had no idea what the hell was going on. So, but the movie is tense enough as it is. And if you're not an insect person, if you're not a person who likes looking at cockroaches and bugs and stuff, you will surely get creeped out enough by the premise alone, much less seeing the creatures, the mimics. Just start walking around and doing stuff. The story's pretty self-explanatory. The characters in of themselves are not completely one note, but they're not exactly the most developed people in the world. But it's kind of fine. This is a horror monster flick where we care about the monsters and the scares. I will say this, it does really well in the department of tensity. This movie is really tense, either through lighting, through camera work, through music, and just through the fact that this is a movie that it does show the monsters early, but they never really give you a fixation on what they kind of look like. So they're not completely in it where they kind of make you numb to who they are. They are suspenseful enough that when they do show up, you just go, ah, and then just the fact that they're insect creatures, it was enough to like kind of annoy me, or just, it'll bring a chill up many people's spines. The actors are fine. I will say Josh Brolin is in this, so for all you people who are going to see Deadpool to see him as Cable, or see Avengers Infinity Wars to see him as Thanos. He's in this movie, doesn't really play much of a role. There is a cop in this movie called named Leonard, played by Charles S. Dutton, who actually does do a pretty good performance as a cop who kind of just dragged into this world by two scientists and wants nothing to do with this. And he's pretty good in his performance, but Charles Dutton is always really good, so I'll give him that. The two main leads are fine at what they're doing, but there is no mistake. This is a movie. This is a Guillermo del Toro flick, and you can see a lot of the love in this movie go on to his other movies. The most important part of these movies are the aesthetics, which while doesn't have the color palette of his movies he'll go later on to go do, you do see that he has an eye for what he cares about, and what he cares about is the monsters. So you'll see a lot of that in this movie. If I was to say anything bad, some of the logic doesn't make sense. There's a whole part where Josh Brolin's character is told to go somewhere, and then he just starts making stupid decisions, to which I go, I don't get what he's doing. None of the characters feel fully developed, but this is kind of a survival thing, so that's alright. There's a little kid who I don't really know why he exists. Him and his grandfather exist in this movie just to, we need a kid. But all that aside, what it does well, it does really well. It does cheat a lot by shooting in the dark, but this is all about creeping you out, scaring you, and just being a sci-fi horror movie. And when it does that, it does it well. I'll have to give Mimic an 8. It really hasn't aged in 31 years. This is a really good movie, just on aesthetics and like atmosphere alone. The acting is fine for what it has to do. It isn't. There's nothing that's terribly bad at it. It's bad at, and it never really drags, because every time you're still wondering how is everybody gonna escape this. So yeah, this is Guillermo del Toro's first American flick, and I highly recommend it, in case you didn't know by the score. So that's all I have to say for now. Have you seen Mimic? Let me know in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, and I'll be seeing you next time at the movies.